Yes, welcome back. This week, the Australian arm of Topshop became the latest retailer to go into voluntary administration. So how is the sector placed as the threat of Amazon's arrival looms ever closer? Well, joining me is Roger Montgomery from the Montgomery Fund. Roger, you've been looking at Amazon for some time now.
Indeed.
How do you think it's going? Because it's almost here. We hear about these warehouses going up the East Coast.
Indeed. Well, what you have to remember is in the United States, 52% of households have an Amazon Prime account. That's
52%?
52%.
And the Prime account, explain what the Prime account is.
So the Amazon Prime account is a membership account. It offers free delivery on any products that you buy on Amazon with one-touch ordering and delivery. So once your details are all in there, you literally say, yes, I want that product, and it will be delivered oftentimes in the United States before you get home from work. It's there waiting for you in the lobby. Whether or not the distances involved in Australia means that that's not quite possible, I don't know. But I do know that companies like JB Hi-Fi and Richard Murray, who at the Macquarie conference only a few weeks ago said they've decided to bring down their delivery promise from 5 days to 3 days, won't be able to compete with Amazon's logistics. So that's just one.
They've brought it down from 5 to 3 in anticipation of Amazon.
Indeed, yeah. Indeed. They're all aware of it. In fact, Richard Murray sort of scoffed when he was stepping up onto the stage to speak. I know you want to ask questions about Amazon. So it was all about Amazon. But what was interesting is he refused to answer a question from me about whether the suppliers to him, the Sonys and the Samsungs of the world, had agreed to supply the same products to Amazon, because that's ultimately what you want to know.
Yeah.
So you take Rebel Sport, for example, more than 80% of their best-selling products are already available on Amazon. So that's going to be very difficult because Amazon runs an algorithm that scans the market for reputable online sellers of the product, and it discounts, it either matches it or discounts it by 5 or 10%. So, and it's an algorithm that's running 24/7, so it's very, very hard to beat. And then they have their Alexa product, which is their personal assistant, which is built into a speaker. Okay. And if you speak into that, they offer you a cheaper price. So they're encouraging people to go onto that. And what that does is removes all the visual cues that brands use to try and sell their products at a premium.
Well, I was going to say, we talk about the power and almost as though Amazon's going to come down here and just nuke all retail.
Yes.
But I mean, in America, people still go into shops. They still like choosing things. I mean, the music has not died in America.
No, it hasn't, but it's changed. It's moved the goalposts, and it's changed who's in charge. You've got to remember, in the last 3 years, the number of people visiting malls, this is foot traffic to malls, yes, has fallen 50% in 3 years.
No, I didn't know that.
Right, so we already know that. Now, it is true that over the last 6 years or 7 years, the number of malls under construction exceeded population growth by 2. So
in the US?
In the United States.
Yeah.
So they had too many stores to begin with. So that was a problem. We don't have that problem in Australia, but we don't have companies that are logistically prepared or their omni-channel offering.
Well, funnily enough, I mean, Amazon hasn't arrived here yet, but we've actually seen quite a lot of fallout just between the competition, I would assume, from some of the big internationals coming down here, like Zara, say, on the clothing side. Now we've got this week Topshop, Topman, unless Sir Philip Green wanders in to prop it up.
Yes.
That's in real trouble.
Well, that doesn't change. Him propping it up doesn't change what's just happened. And this is in the absence of Amazon. So what we've got, and the big problem that we've got, is a 23% drop in approvals for construction. Yes. That occurred in October. Yes. That leads to a massive drop in commencements, which ultimately leads to a massive drop in construction. And so when those approvals, which we know have now stopped, lead to a decline in construction activity, there's a huge number of the population, 9% of the population is employed in construction, that are going to be underemployed. Many of them are contractors.
So you're saying the consumer dollar is going to weaken? Henry
Ford increased the salary to his staff so that more of them could afford his cars. So when you've got the construction industry out of a job, that's less people buying furniture and so on. We know there's a 10-month lag between housing activity and addition and renovation demand. So that means in 10 to 12 months' time, Bunnings, Nick Scali, Harvey Norman, JB Hi-Fi, the good guys, all of them are on borrowed time.
Pulling it back,
and that's without Amazon arriving.
Okay, well, pulling it back to retail and Amazon.
Sure.
What is, I mean, is this just going to be fabulous for the consumer? And what is it going to do to brands?
Well, that's the thing. So I'm glad you asked, because Amazon has declared war on brands. So Amazon's argument is that brands earn an undeserved premium, and that premium is the result purely of advertising, shelf space and in-store offerings. The brands would argue...
What about
that
design and...
Indeed, and research and development and innovation and all those things. So the brands would argue that they need the premium for that, and they also require the premium because what they're effectively doing is reducing the due diligence required for people to go and explore everything to find quality. And those visual cues that exist in the marketing, that's one way of people being able to identify quality because they become familiar with the brands. Amazon's laid waste to all of that. They don't care about any of that, and that's a win for the consumer in the short term. I don't know if it's a win for the consumer.
In the long term?
Well, in the long term, there's less profits for manufacturing. There's less profits for brands. So if you own real estate, there's less profit for landlords.
But is everything going to look just rather grey and drab and triangular?
Well, one wonders, because it's an existential threat to the way of life that we're accustomed to. Another thing that they're doing that many people don't realise is the swing tag on a product, the fixed price on a product. That's historically very recent. That existed, that came in when owners of new department stores realised they couldn't train all their staff to haggle.
Yes.
And what Amazon is now doing with their dynamic pricing is removing that fixed price. So there's no more price discovery for consumers either. So it's a really, really big problem for consumers. Go to a website called camel.com and you pull up an Amazon product and it looks like a stock chart, and that's the intraday price movement of that product.
Okay.
So where you inquire about the product, where you inquire about the product, and your search behaviour in the past will determine the price you're being offered by Amazon.
All right, Roger Montgomery, thank you very much
You're
for
welcome.
joining us. Camel.com.